Hey friends, welcome back to the Life of a Makeup Artist podcast. I am over the moon today because we have a return guest, my dear friend, Diarrha N'Diaye.
Well, hello, I'm back.
How
I'm
are
back.
you, boo? How is life?
I'm good. I'm good. Life is very busy. And we'll talk about this, but I'm feeling very grateful today.
Wow. So the
Yeah.
last time we talked on the podcast was in 2021.
Really?
Yeah. This is when the brand just literally was getting
Oh,
started.
wow.
And can we just talk about the growth, the progression?
Oh.
You know?
I'm still stuck on 2021. I'm like, wow, like
Yeah.
so much has happened since then.
Yeah.
And startup is so weird because there is no concept of time. Like everything is just too late.
Mhm.
So you're just always chasing and so it feels like 10 years, but it's only been
A few years.
a few years. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So before we get into all the things, I want to start by saying what a testament it is to
Mm.
really follow your dreams. I love to tell this story. We have known each other for so long. We literally met in the airport.
In the
We've known each
airport?
other for like literally all the seasons of our lives.
Yes.
And I love to tell this story because I was working at Mac at the time.
Yes. JFK, Terminal
JFK,
4.
Terminal 4. And what happened to your flight again? Was it delayed or
Yes.
canceled or
Oh my
something?
goodness. At the time I was working at L'Oreal and I think we had like 14 business days as vacation. So, I had not been in Senegal for like 10 years. So this is a big trip. I got there and the flight was delayed for like 17 hours for no reason.
I didn't know it was 17 hours.
17 hours. So we were supposed to depart, I think like 9 o'clock that day, and we departed the next day. So I ran over to the Mac counter to get some skincare because the girl needs to wash her face.
She was like, help me.
And I saw this beautiful, just so green too, with a beautiful accent. She's like, sit down, honey. Like, and it wasn't even about the product. She was like, just let's breathe. What's going on? I'm like, okay, you're my friend now.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. And from then you were at Temp 2, you were at
Yes.
Glossier, you were at L'Oreal. I remember coming to the office on your last day.
Oh my God, you
Do
did?
you remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah. And I bought you this little cupcake.
She's literally so sweet. But
That's
I
crazy.
literally have goosebumps because it's really crazy. It's been so many chapters because
Yeah.
even at Temp 2, I feel like I remember either you coming at the office because Temp
Yeah.
2 is really pro art makeup artistry.
Mhm.
Those who know. The makeup show.
I had came to test some products.
We had
when
the
they
consumer
new-
pods coming
yeah,
out.
mhm.
The airbrush makeup pods, and then the makeup show.
Mhm.
All those beautiful memories.
And then come into the Glossier office.
And then the Glossier office.
You're like,
Oh.
take snacks. I'm like, say less.
yeah. It was like truly like snacks galore. So I would be like, stock up.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I used to be embarrassed by this, but I think I am a word of affirmation person now in this
Mhm.
chapter of my life
Mhm.
because again, you're moving so quickly that you don't get to say like, you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
3 years, you did a lot for 3 years because I'm
Yeah.
in this like, I wouldn't call it imposter syndrome, but the to-do list is like infinite, you know?
You always feel like you need to do more. You need
It's
to.
never enough.
Yeah.
It's never enough. You have stakeholders, you have team, you have retail,
Mhm.
and you're always kind of chasing this
Mhm.
churn, and then you forget to just say like, thank you, body, for
Right.
allowing me. Thank you, vision, for
Right.
allowing me, and thank you, friend,
Right.
for supporting me. So I just want to say that because I received that. I feel it.
I love that.
Mhm.
Okay, so Ami Colé has achieved so much in the past 2 years with multiple new launches and several awards. And I know you just shared on this a bit, but I really want to ask, how does it feel to see your brand
Mhm.
thriving and growing and recognized on a large scale?
Yeah, that's a great question. It feels very rewarding because I think that I took the stairs,
Mhm.
right? Like I did the internship and I was that intern that would be on the floor, at 10 o'clock at night, making sure the deliveries were out because I love to work and I love to see things through. And I always was a big dreamer. Like I
Mhm.
knew that was very temporary, that one day I could. So when I see Ami Colé now, I'm like, it is possible. Like
Right.
it really, really is possible. And um the integrity of it too. Like it's
Mhm.
like I would like to think that I don't rush everything. I
Right.
really want to apply thoughtfulness to things and create a space for a timeless brand
Right.
and like I feel very proud when I see like the deliverables come out, like, the P pages on Sephora or the billboards that we create
Mm-hmm.
together, or the final packages or unboxing that's happening on social. Um, it can feel out of this world too. You're like, wait, what? I have a
Right.
brand. I'm
Right.
like using a full face of makeup that I created. Like
Right.
it's so insane, but very fulfilling.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I love that. Okay, so I truly do feel, I mean, I'm sure you feel like this, but I do feel like you're just getting started.
Come on
You
now.
know, you're just getting started. The brand is only a few years old and
Hmm.
sky's the limit.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but to get to where you are now,
Hmm.
obviously it hasn't been easy.
Hmm.
How do you navigate the no's? Because you've probably heard
Hmm.
no when the brand first started,
Hmm.
with funding, with all a bunch of different things. Like, how do you navigate that and still push through?
Wow, that's a great question. And it's a lesson that I had to learn very early,
Mm-hmm.
especially during the fundraising part,
Right.
because just so your audience or newer audience know, we raised capital before we even raised. I mean, sorry, before we even had a product.
Right.
So that meant a pre-revenue
Mm-hmm.
generating company and brand. Truly, the investors are banking on you as a founder, your experience, and your vision. So I heard a lot of no's because they're like, "Girl,
Where is the where is the product?
stop playing. Like,
Right.
come back to us when you have some traction, a website."
Right.
So, all that to say, I think very early on, I had to remember and also train myself not to take it personal.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's doing their job.
Right.
Everyone's like, my job is to find a brand, a company that can solve XYZ for either myself or my
Mm-hmm.
stakeholders or
Mm-hmm.
LPs, which is, people that invest in actually a fund.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing their job. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's not going to match, but that doesn't mean that you're not a great artist or a
Right.
great brand, et
Mm-hmm.
cetera, et cetera. It's just the timing isn't right and the
Right.
positioning isn't right. So I think that I have learned that, especially now, the brands or the people or the spaces that I thought should have said yes to me,
Right.
I'm so grateful that they did not. Because when those doors close, you're like, oh, thank. All I say right now is like, thank you, God. I
Right.
see you
When the
working.
rejection
It's
is
not from
actually
me.
protection.
Listen,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to burn me twice. So I see like, either friends that are in bed with, not physically, but like in bed with said investor or
Mm-hmm.
like retailer. I'm like, wow, thank God.
Right.
So I always look at it, number one, as a blessing in disguise. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I just don't take it personal.
Right.
Hmm.
But have you ever had moments where you're like, I don't know if I could do this?
I mean, yes. And I think the moments change
Mm-hmm.
throughout your journey. I think the moments in the beginning where like I kept saying no, it felt a little bit like, okay, well, I'm a realist as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Sagittarius, a Virgo moon. So like
Okay.
so like at the end of the day, like it's business.
Right.
Right? So if everyone's saying no, is this a viable business?
Right.
So I think there comes a point where I ask myself, like, okay, this doesn't exist maybe for a reason. Maybe I'm not the person to create it. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason why it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So I start to get like a little bit more like just thinking about like life in that way.
Right.
Like, do I need to be doing this? I think now it's harder because I know that it needs to
Right.
exist.
Right.
I see it. You're
Right.
using it. My friends are using it. We're
Right.
talking about it. The no's feel like, okay, no, but what is the answer?
Right.
How do I navigate this thing and how do I not feel beat up?
Right.
Because I think in the beginning, especially when you're like more green and naive a little bit, it's just like, oh my God, a dream, a dream, a dream. But now it's like a dream, one, that you have to protect.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're in spaces where they're telling you your dream isn't that or it should look like this,
Right.
etc. So your vision is more compromised because
Right.
there's more people in the kitchen. And then you just have more influences.
Mm-hmm.
You have a team internally that you need to,
Mm-hmm.
manage and excite and create a sense of purpose for their career.
Right.
You have, my retailer Sephora, and they
Right.
have their agenda as well. Like,
Right.
this is what's trending now,
Right.
or here's how you succeed within these confines.
Right.
Then you have your investors that are like, viral on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, I hear you, this is cute, but
Right.
like, what's that kind of on like
Right.
light bulb, lightning flash, progression. So I think those together, it feels tiring.
But how do you balance staying true to like what your vision is for the brand and then listening to everybody else? Like
Mm-hmm.
Sephora, your people that work at your brand, the
Yeah.
investors, like how do you balance like okay, I'm gonna listen to you today, but maybe not tomorrow. How do you make
Oof.
those decisions?
It's hard. It's really, really hard. And I think that, you know what's been helping me actually journaling?
Hmm.
Because I used to think it was like, oh, whatever, I'm just going to journal, my little notebook.
Hmm.
But it becomes so noisy
But what
because
do you journal? Just like your day, or your like what you want in life,
so
or
when I'm fed up
mm-hmm.
or when I'm like on the brink of either breakthrough or
Mm-hmm.
breakdown,
Mm-hmm.
I just turn to there's like not one person like not unfortunate. It's just it is what it is. Like
Mm-hmm.
being a founder is so unique and
Mm-hmm.
so lonely,
Mm-hmm.
and to really explain it all, it takes like some crazy like career coach that I probably can't afford right now
Right.
to be able to put context for you
Mm-hmm.
and or friends in that space. But for me, and we'll talk about this as well, it's the layers of it. It's the being a mother, a mother of two young kids. It's being so many things, so many hats that I wear on top
Right.
of founder.
Right.
And when I get there, I either want to run to the ocean, I either want to take a vacation
Right.
or I want to just write. And I know that I can't do the former right
Right.
now.
Right.
So I write. And then when
Right.
I realize I grabbed this notebook and I kid you not, I'm like, oh my God, this notebook, I haven't seen it in so long. I opened it and when I tell you I was bawling, crying because I saw that girl
Yeah.
and and everything that I wrote down almost very scarily happened.
I started
And
doing this in
manifestation
2011. I started doing it.
20, I think it was 20. Oh, you did it a little bit earlier than me,
Yeah.
but isn't it scary
Yeah.
though?
Because you forget some of the things that you write. And then I've
Specific.
watched back stuff and I was like, that's
I
actually
did that.
happened. So I love that
So,
you share that because,
yeah.
in a world where you're seeing everybody succeed and everybody have all these glamorous things,
Mm.
you figure like it's not possible for me, maybe not me, and then you're like,
Mm-mm.
wait, no, it's actually possible for you. Like you have to just,
Not only possible, it's meant for you.
yeah,
It's meant for you because I think that again, speaking to your question earlier about like how do you remember that vision? It's so pure and it keeps it will still keep coming up in you, but you just have more tools to shut it up
right,
or more reasons to shut it up. But I think it still always lives in you.
right,
But it becomes influenced. Like
right,
it's like a little kid, like
yeah,
just kind of influence in that way. But when you go back to the core, you keep remembering the things you wrote down. That's how I remember mine myself. Like you know
right,
what? No, actually, I don't want to do this, and I knew I didn't feel good about it. And here's why: because I
right,
remember this girl at this time.
right,
So I'm being better about when I'm like when I'm like there, and I've been
right,
there, and literally the past couple of weeks, girl, it's like let me get back to this journaling so I can
right,
understand how to navigate this and also appreciate this because
yeah,
it's not going to be always up.
yeah,
That's life,
yeah,
literally.
that's true.
Hmm.
So your brand was named after your mom,
Yeah.
and you grew up in Harlem with Senegalese roots. And oftentimes I feel like you just don't really see brands infuse their family and their
Mm.
culture into their brand at all or their marketing.
Hmm.
Can you share why this was so important to you?
I've never been asked that question, and it makes me so happy. Wow. Okay. You know why? I struggled with it for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I was the girl who just had so many different titles.
Mm-hmm.
Muslim, probably darkest shade, darkest person in the class, cultural. I would go to home, it was a different language, different food, different smells. I'd leave, go to Spanish Harlem, it was a different vibe. And I was so confused. And I think that my family did a good job reminding me of who I was,
Mm-hmm.
why I was beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
despite the noise around me. And I just was like, whatever, dad, you're just saying that because you're my dad.
Right.
But then now I'm like, wow, that was a really good anchor for me because
Mm-hmm.
not everyone has that. And I know how scary it can be
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have an anchor to remind you who you are, why you exist, and that your destiny was probably written way before you were even thought of.
Mm-hmm.
And so many things had to have happened for you to come and
Mm-hmm.
be here in existence. So actually, very transparently, I've never shared this before. I had a very difficult relationship with my mom.
Wow.
She was very like, growing up, she was very strict and very
Mm-hmm.
stringent and was very like, I don't care that you're in Harlem. You are Senegalese.
Right.
I don't want to hear about your friends. I don't want to do this and this and that. She was very by the book, very religious.
Were
And I
you
just
always at
had
her salon too?
always at the salon,
Mm-hmm.
like, and not, not because I wanted to, like, there was no daycare. Like,
Right.
I just had to be there because it was
Right.
a part of it. So, especially as a teenager, you're trying to be outside. All my
Right.
friends are going to the party on Friday. I couldn't go.
Right.
Like, should I run away from home?
Right.
But here I
Risk
am
it
stuck.
all, honey.
Right. Here I am stuck at the shop trying to,
Mm-hmm.
do all that. But in the meantime, I was still absorbing all these beautiful things that
Mm-hmm.
would then come to be the brand. So, very long story short, I think in that tension of trying to figure out who I am, what I was before I
Mm-hmm.
even knew, at the core and the corner of it was my family.
Mm-hmm.
The roles they play not only in my lives, but the lives of people that were back home,
Mm-hmm.
kind of waiting for that monthly stipend to live.
Mm-hmm.
The ways that my mother was able to create, employment for new people coming from Senegal to
Mm-hmm.
America. And then just me growing up as a kid, as
Mm-hmm.
a true Harlem kid,
Mm-hmm.
trying to balance my love for like Little Kim and Yusundur at the same time. Okay. And like being out in the streets,
Right.
but also going home to a different reality. So I think that was just the tension became a beautiful tension.
Right.
And it became like this beautiful gumbo of things
Right.
that I think now is celebrated.
Right.
Now that we have the going back to Ghana in December,
Right.
but that was not a thing
Yeah.
up until
Only last
recently.
couple of years.
Literally. So I think that really reminds me of who I am, but
Right.
also gives me the tools to be able to communicate to many a different women
Right.
that have, certain hinges of like just like commonalities.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you feel like helped heal that relationship with your mom? Because obviously, like,
Yeah.
naming your brand after your mom, it's a reminder every day of her.
Yes.
And sometimes when we have difficult relationships with our parents, which I've had as well, it's sometimes you carry that into adulthood. Sometimes it triggers just a trauma or whatever it is. So like, was there anything specific that kind of helped quell that or help heal that relationship between you guys?
And it's recent, right? I think that both of us were both living in fear of just like one of us is going to disappoint the other.
Mm-hmm.
Either I was going to disappoint my mom and just get caught up in the life of Harlem and just the streets, and not crazy, but just how it is. The boyfriend ends up being
Right.
baby daddy,
Right.
that thing that was like
She says,
her
"It's not
biggest
your portion,
fear,
honey."
right? That's her biggest fear, and I think and I was just always fearful of disappointing her, like not being worth it. Not being, I remember very distinctly very early and a little traumatic too, but like I remember when her mom died and how and what it did for her, like to her, sacrificing so much. And I think that at the time I was 6 years old. My little sister was months old, and we finally went to Senegal. I never even knew about this country. I just hear about it in like theory. We go there, we go to St. Louis, and it's beautiful. I'm feeling like true family because it's just us nuclear here. But when you go there, it's like, that's your cousin, that's your uncle, that's that.
Right.
And I went there and she was with her mother. And I think that it was my first time seeing her a little bit more human and not like a superhero. I gotta listen to what she says. And as soon as we get back, her mom passes away.
Oh, wow.
And the reason why she went back so early, because I had school, it was September. So it was like my first, I think first grade. And I remember she's like, my mom died. And I've never seen my mother like this ever. Like she was delirious. She was saying things she shouldn't have been saying. Like, I hate this country. I should have been near with my mom and all these things. And I just felt like at that moment, like I let her down for some reason because I had to go to school. I'm like, oh, maybe if I didn't go to school, my grandmother would still be here and she'd still be happy. I was just always trying to get to her to be happy. So I think that. Sorry, what was the beginning of your question?
I was just asking, like, what was there anything specific that helped quell the relationship and kind of like help heal?
Yeah, and I think that as I continue to navigate and grow as a woman, and like. I'm not a wild child, mom. I did the school thing, and I think I just kept reassuring her that I was on the quote unquote right track, and or everything that she did for me did not go amiss. Like I see it, I appreciate it. Maybe I didn't pay it forward that same minute, but me kind of moving on and transitioning into like adulthood, especially as I was telling my best friend this, I've been able to unlock certain languages or certain connections with her as a mom now and as a wife,
Right.
things that she would never tell me. And now that
Right.
I'm like, she's like, now that you're here, let me tell you, like,
Right.
this is marriage.
Right.
This is what it means to be a responsible mom. Like,
Right.
see how hard it is. And I
Right.
think that we've been able to be way closer now than my younger days and
Right.
like free of anything.
Right.
I'm able to understand her insight now, and she's
Right.
able to understand mine. But that's very recent. Like, that's very
Wow.
recent. I think that again, there's something so special about my mom because she's so like by the book, and like she's not changing her bar of soap regardless.
She said,
It
I
could
don't want your
be
necessary
50
honey.
years and she's going to use that same, whatever, like
Yeah.
routine. And I think there's something special about that. Like,
Yeah.
she's not influenced. She is who she is. And she's very much like timeless,
Right.
and the things that worked for her in the 80s, she's still using the same color pencil and like the fashion fair. Like, so I just respect that so much because she didn't let the universe rush her into anything. So there's like a timeless beauty to her
Right.
that I really want Ami Colé to be as well. Like the
Right.
staples, the classics that my mom can graduate into or
Right.
appreciate. And I just wanted that to be a reminder every day as well.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So when it comes to shade inclusivity, some
Deep sigh.
some beauty brands they're the girls that get it. And
Yeah.
some beauty brands are just the girls that don't.
Yeah.
And what in your opinion, what are some of the most pressing challenges and opportunities in this space today, especially concerning shade inclusivity? Because it's not about just creating dark shades, it's the undertones and
It's just thoughtfulness. I think it's just like really like saying I see you, I understand you. And sometimes that takes homework, and that's okay. Right? Like, I know that I need help, for instance, like with my South Asian friends. I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean by olive yellow? Like, what do you mean by green olive? Like, or like my Greek friends. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, tell me more. And I think that that's not happening. The conversation is not happening because no one wants to be racist. So they think like, oh, I'm not going to even ask her, or I'm going to pretend like I know. And then you ended up paying the cost anyway, plus tax.
Right.
So I think that number one is the level of thoughtfulness and human approach to anything design, right? It's like, and I'm literally talking about anything design, like even ergonomically speaking, like, okay, this is made for left hand, this is made for right hand. And how do I make it like, is it ambidextrous?
Yeah.
The two? Okay. Yes. How do I make it like truly inclusive in design? And I think that we're still not there yet. I think that we recognize the problem, and I think that we're problem solvers. Like, okay, fine, we've got it on paper, let's go. But it's not a business case. It's not. These are people's lives, and I know how it feels to not really be a part of the conversation. And I recently just thinking about like this, like what happens in the world like when we are general market.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right now, like there's general market, especially working like the big places like L'Oreal. There are very specific marketing languages depending on who you're servicing.
Right.
So general market, Latinx, et cetera, et cetera. But like what happens if like people are general market? And I know that sounds very easy in theory because resources are not like infinite. But in terms of our progress report on shade inclusivity, there's still a thought that Black is monolithic and that Black from Ghana is even the same as Black from South Africa, or that Black from Trinidad is the same as Black from Jamaica. No. Like those undertones are so different. And I think that homework and the resources behind that homework is still not being done because it's expensive. And some people think it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And then when you don't get that right, it's up to a brand to then do all that work, and then the industry will follow suit.
Yeah.
But sometimes the brand doesn't have those resources either. So it takes a big behemoth kind of corporate, powerhouses, unfortunately, to move the needle, honestly, when it comes to the Nielsen reports and the NPD reports, to truly understand the nuances, to then be able to trickle it down through the industry. It's the same thing as sustainability, right? Like me, small brand, like I want to do, for instance, we have sugarcane for our skin enhancing tints. They're made in these beautiful resins that's sugarcane, but it's really expensive. But if L'Oreal, for instance, was to set the norm, like, all right, everyone in the industry is using now bioresin, it's compared to $3, it'll be like 50 cents for me
Wow.
because the quantities are not as precious.
Right.
So when you make that information not as precious and kind of general market and available, everyone will at least have the same starting point
Right.
to understand truly the problem
Right.
and then to figure out creative ways to problem solve it according to like what the actual problem is. But right now everyone's like, all right, Black girls, here we go.
Yeah. I get
And we feel it and we get frustrated and it sounds like the same music over and over again, but it's the same problem all over again.
Literally.
2024.
Literally. So I want to show you something.
All right.
I was in the Bahamas with my mom this weekend, and I recently gave her the skin tint.
Yes.
And I want you to see her. Let me show you.
This is so special. Okay.
Ami Colé is life. So you like the skin tint? Yeah. When I put it on, everybody asked me, "Isn't the money board covered you guys 59?" Somebody asked you about it? No, everybody. No, from Teresa, every day to work since you give me.
Oh my God.
It light.
Mm-hmm.
It really matches. It's really, really good.
Oh my. On the beach, mind you, brows perfect.
I like the nails, but they're a little too dark.
Yes.
Listen.
I love that.
She is so happy. She's like, I am upset. And I've given her so much makeup, but I finally gave her a skin tint.
Yes.
So when you
it's
talk
so
about general
light.
market, like, I just want you to see that reaction because people
That's
are
real.
actually really
Ooh.
loving what you're doing.
I received that, and thank you again because you get so caught up in the run that you forget these are real people, real faces, real stories, right? And I just appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Mom.
So tell us how working at Glossier, because you were in social media marketing basically for your entire career, and then you pivoted into product development at Glossier. But I want to know how your time spent at Glossier, Temp2 at L'Oreal, like how does that shape how you run your own brand now?
Oh, that's a great question. And I don't think this is exclusive to Glossier, but I just know what it feels, and I hope that I'm still this way, but I know how it feels to be the employee. I get the frustrations and I get the, I get both sides now too, now that I'm also CEO and founder. But I think that gives me a little bit of a human element to how I lead. But from a very technical perspective, again, I took the stairs. I learned. I was on the job learning, failing, learning, failing, learning, and progressing. I think that I'm always very hyper curious. I want to see how things work, why they work, why not. I want to see my work have an impact. Like I love to track progress and to show how I'm working towards the bigger business goal. I've always been this way as well, like especially at Temp2, Michael, Samantha, people that owned it, and like they turn to you as employees to turn their vision into reality. Like they that's a big role, right? So I was at Temp2, I'm like, okay, like which one of my friends can I talk to? How can I bring them in here and really push this so that they can also see their dream realized as well? So I think that I've always had a great repertoire of being a really diligent worker and very curious. And also, especially at Glossier, I had been historically doing product development, social media marketing and very NPR. So doing product development was like so different for me and very scary. Like no one wants to be bad at work or at their job. So I think that I pushed myself every single day, even through tears sometimes, to stay the extra mile to figure it out. And that makes you learn so much about the work, but also about yourself. I learned a lot. And then, just navigating, it's a startup. So like everyone's young and like all the senior vice presidents are like 25. With so many egos and et cetera. And I think that also I found myself very often like biting my tongue. And not because I knew better, but I just knew there was a way in a world where this was truly inclusive. And it was interesting. But anyway, all that to say, I learned a lot about myself. And I was on one after I left. I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm doing this by myself. I know it's possible.
I remember you had that backyard. Remember that backyard party at the Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn? Yes. That was lit. In Bed-Stuy.
That was so
It was literally when I first moved to Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn. Again, like in my bag, kind of freshly removed from L'Oreal. And I think I might have told you, maybe
Yeah,
not.
you did.
I snuck you out of the party. I'm very good for this. I'm good for like a
We're
big,
talking
great
in the back,
Gatsby,
yeah.
right? Great. I felt a big Gatsby vibe, but I was sneaking on a corner and just talking to our friends about life and like quintessential things like, are you
Yep.
satisfied? What's your future? And I told you, I'm like, I think I want to do this thing.
Yeah.
And I really think, and she's just as delirious as I am. She's like, go ahead, girl. Yes, I'm ready. When do I buy? I said, whoa, Jaleesa. But I need friends like you
Yeah.
because you're dreaming too.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're just exchanging notes. And then before we know it, we're like little girls in the corner, just like manifesting. Like, I think even when you came to Glossier one day, I was like, it was a bad day for me. Remember that
Do
day?
you remember that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Jaleesa came and she looked me in my eyes. She's like, you know what? Let's shift our mindset. Let's talk as if it's already happened. And I'm like, what?
Oh my God, you gotta make me cry.
I'm like, what are you talking about, girl?
Yes.
And she's like, no, stop. Like, it's 5 years from now. You have already created a brand. You are already in a relationship and you're very happy and you might have a kid, and talk to me that way. I'm like, this girl's literally insane. It's like Thursday and I have a meeting in 30 minutes, right? So here I am. I'm like, you know what? Today was an easy day. Like, I did my little product development brief and then we got the things out to the contract manufacturer and we did all these things. And I'm talking to her again as if this happened. And then you're spewing it back to me. He's like, yeah, my boyfriend did this. We're both single. My boyfriend did this today, and but he was cute though because he gave me flowers, and then you just smilingly walked away. I'm like, this girl's insane, but I love her so much. But look at the power of that.
Yeah.
2 kids later, a
Wow.
business,
Yeah, you
and
were like
a marriage, and
crazy.
just be careful with the way that you talk to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The way that you respond to yourself, the way that you check yourself. Like even things like meditating, right? Which is I don't want to get all like heady, but like if you're meditating and you're like, oh no, focus, girl, no, bring it back. It's okay to be like, you know what, you roamed a little bit.
Right.
Let's just bring it back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's okay. It's like there's not a right way.
You have to be gentle with yourself.
Gentle. There's not a way. We're gonna die. We're gonna die. Yeah. And God make it like slow.
Right.
But there's no right way to live to die. Yeah. It's just a zigzag process and flow. It's the way that you treat yourself along the way. It's the way that you protect that vision.
Yeah.
Protect it by all means, because there will be a day when the vision happens. And we hear this all the time with the artists, right? Mm-hmm. Like, okay, my vision was the music and the thing, but then what?
Right.
Then you're lonely in this mansion.
Yeah.
Then you're on this yacht by yourself because you were horrible to your friends along the way.
Right.
And you have no one to talk to cry to.
Right.
And you haven't called your mom,
Right.
So like, it's the 360. Like, we work because we have to. Mm-hmm. A lot of us are visionary and this mature. But like, what's the life around that? And who do you want to be around you? Right. So I think I'm very sensitive to that. Like, I'm not like friendly like that. Right. I'm very protective of my bubble. My friends will let you know. Like, it's the same group over and over again. And I'm like, you have to be. But I pour in. Like, I'll tell you everything. I'm not like hiding anything because you're my person. Yeah. And I feel that way. So anyway, I diverged, but it was very important to have you along the journey too.
It's true. Don't make me cry my own podcast, girl. So it's been so actually heartbreaking to see some of my favorite beauty brands shut their doors. Yeah. Some of my favorite products, and obviously you want to especially support Black-owned brands. Yeah. Is that something that is like in the back of your mind, like when you're building the brand? Because it's been happening rapidly, but it's just like you really want to think about sustainability and maybe like slow growth. Can you share more about like how you navigate this? Yeah, and I think I'm the right person to have like a state of union, because I'm in it, and these are my peers, and I feel very sad. And just so you know, like, it's not even just like sadness. It's a signal to the market that either, number one, again, this doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Here's why. All these brands have shut down. Or the responsible people are saying we're not doing a good job. Right. More than likely, it's the former. Someone's like, those don't work. We've tried. Didn't you see? Right. Versus, again, trying to create a system to harness and harbor these brands. So
It's very, very sad. It's very scary
Mm-hmm.
because these are brands like, offices, employees, $15 million revenue. Um,
People's life.
you know what I mean? It was life. It was readily available, and business is business, as we know, but
Mhm.
I think disproportionately affected by especially Black women solo founders.
Yeah.
We know that specifically fundraising has been insane,
Mhm.
but it's been the lowest amount of capital deployed to Black women since 2016. So not
Mhm.
only are we back to the beginning, we are back at the very beginning. So
Mhm.
when everything retracts, we're gonna be even more constricted. We've seen things in legislation passed
Mhm.
where people are literally suing people for
Right.
supporting Black or BIPOC owned brands and companies. So it's a very scary world, and anyone can get it. You are
Yeah.
not special.
Yeah.
It's the most precious brands, it's the most precious founders, the darling founders. It's like, no, this is the reality.
Yeah.
How are you pivoting? How are you kind of creating a space to actually thrive? So it's very scary. It's something I'm navigating daily.
Yeah.
I'm just being very transparent. And I think that we have to show up. And I
Mhm.
think that listen, woe is not me. Like,
Yeah.
if you like another brand, use the other brand. I
Right.
am the product junkie, so I will talk to you about, any mascara. But
Mhm.
listen, if there's a mascara that you can buy from a Black owned brand, please do.
Right.
We know at the end of the day, like, you're voting with your dollars. We
Mhm.
can't like push, beg, and steal.
Mhm.
But the TikTok algorithm is pulling up the same Charlotte Tilbury, the same this thing, this and that. And then it's not, and you think that, oh, they're good, but no, babes, we need the sales.
Yeah. Literally.
So we're being as creative as we can
Mhm.
with the resources that we have, but it's a very, very tough and very scary time. Like, I've
Yeah.
lost many a nights of sleeps because, again, like, these were best in class examples that are no
Yeah.
longer
Yeah.
within days
Gone. Yeah.
gone, no warning. And I think that, especially being in retail, like, you're not understanding, like, just because you're on that shelf,
Mhm.
you're not understanding the unit economics of it all.
Yeah.
How to make sure that your margins are actually
It's
correct.
not a permanent
And
spot.
no, it's not permanent spot. It's not a permanent spot. You have to continue to
Mhm.
show the retailer that you're worthy of that shelf space.
Right.
Not only growing shelf space, but worthy of that one spot.
Right.
So it's very scary, and check on the founders
Right.
because I'm not even trying to be funny.
Mhm.
Like, they're like not well,
Yeah.
not well, and I understand because you pour so much into it to fight forward.
Mhm.
And I get it. Business is business. Numbers are numbers, but we got to just make sure that we're truly
Right.
supporting.
Right.
And usually that means with your dollars, unfortunately, capitalism.
Right. So speaking of support,
Mhm.
you have had an amazing launch with our girl Aisha
Yes.
for a new lip treatment oil.
Yes.
Can you share more about what this collaboration means to you personally and professionally?
Oh,
She's
yes.
amazing.
She is amazing. Shout out to Aisha Haroon. She has been, I mean, I have watched her channel for so long on
Mhm.
YouTube. Like, literally, I would have it on like TV. Especially during like special moments like Ramadan. I think
Mhm.
that, again, being in Brooklyn, moving from Harlem, kind of by myself, because my sister traveled a lot. So I would just have her on and do Ramadan with her.
Mhm.
Anyway, she has been a great supporter of the brand too, just
Mhm.
very organically. And I think that I've always wanted to create this brand to really elevate all levels of authenticity.
Mhm.
Like, you and I's relationship, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? It just happened that way. Aisha similarly has been talking about the brand and using the products for so long. Also a part of the Sephora squad
Mhm.
formerly as well. So I think there's so many synergies just watching her as a young adult, just
Mhm.
navigating space, like whether
Mhm.
that's navigating, moving to a new city, learning
Mhm.
your makeup style,
Mhm.
getting a divorce very publicly,
Right.
falling back in love and getting married again. Like,
Right.
go ahead, girl. Like,
Right.
chase your happy.
Right.
And I think that sometimes we don't get the permission to chase our happy.
Right.
And the internet can be just as much as community, just as much as scary.
Mhm.
And it takes a level of courage to live out loud like that. So I've always just admired her. She doesn't believe me. I'm like, babe, I'm a fan. Like, I am a fan. So to have her come and mind you, homegirl was always ready. So she came. We had like a little beautiful dinner, maybe like almost 2 years ago now.
Right.
She's like, I have an idea. And, like, she brought up this deck and there's like all these peachy and the news. It's like, I just think that there needs to be a perfect like lip treatment oil with the perfect peachy nude vibes. I'm like, let's go. She's like, wait,
Yeah.
what? I'm like, no, I'm serious. Let's do it.
Wow.
And I think that's the beauty too of having the quote unquote power. It's being able to unlock
right.
and not have to like fight or explain like we want to do this because in like a whole 17-page deck of why we should
Right.
exist. Like, no, I get it. I
Right.
see you.
Exactly.
So go ahead. So that's why it's just so special. And it just feels right. It
Yeah.
felt right
Yeah.
too. So I'm excited.
So for those of you who don't know, I've actually been doing makeup for the Ami Colé shoots from
This is day one.
inception.
Day one.
And I have to tell you, that was one of my favorite shoots. Like
Get
the
out,
picture. I mean, you were
yes.
also on set, which never really
Yes.
happens. You probably was on set one other time.
Yes.
But the photos, like everything was just so beautiful.
So good.
Everything
Beyonce
just
playing
flowed, like
and
all the models were on point. Like, and
yes.
you know I love skin. So
You're the skin queen, honey.
thank you.
Boom.
So yeah, that was just one of my favorite shoots. The
I
ass
love
is just
hearing
so
that.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the makeup was phenomenal, you know, and it translated as skin on camera,
Thank you.
which is again two different skill sets, right? Because you can do skin, but then you get on the camera like, girl, what happened?
Right. It has to balance. This
It
is what
has
I
to
like to call
balance.
that elevated snatchural. That's kind of
Ooh,
how I
okay.
describe my makeup. It's elevated snatchural. You're gonna get a little pop of color sometimes,
Yes.
but it's not natural where you look like a oily mess.
Yes.
Because I still want to look beat,
Right.
but I still want to glow. So how do we do that?
How do we do that? Well,
Yeah.
honey, I know y'all saw the assets, honey. Okay.
The shoot was giving. Okay, so you're a mother of two now. You spoke it into existence. How are you balancing this, honey? Because you're in demand. You're on all the things. You're doing all the things. You're doing all the press. You're running a successful beauty brand, and you know you're a wife now. You have to be a wife, a mom.
It's
and
crazy.
Like
I am so blessed. Don't get it twisted. I am so grateful and so blessed, but it is so hard.
right.
I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not glamorous at all. Like Juneteenth, I was laughing because my son was writing on the wall, just like literally like Sharpie to the like going ham, like boom. This is my masterpiece for the day. And I just have to always coach myself like he's learning as well. He's a
Right.
2-year-old, like
Right.
terrible twos are a thing. And in the same beat, like my little one is little.
Right.
So she's like, you know, we're not sleeping through the night.
Right.
And I'm a sleeper, honey. Like before any of this,
Same.
Saturday, try
I'm
me
sleeping
if you want to.
Do
but
not call
try me. And I've always been that way. Like it's a running joke in my like friend group. Like I'm gonna wash my face at night. I don't care if it's 5 a.m.
Right.
and I'm gonna go to sleep.
Right.
And I don't get that luxury. And I think that I sometimes get lost
Mm-hmm.
and I get very overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realize, and I think the thing that grounds me in terms of balance, because there's no such thing,
Right.
but the thing that grounds me is I let myself know that this is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
And my baby girl's going to be small but for so long,
Mhm.
and my baby boy's going to be small for but so long.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. I'm going to turn back time and I'm going to share with them like how I was able to do this. And I think that especially women, because we're like
Right.
literally superhero, but I think that our parents might have had similar situations
Yeah.
or you know navigations. Again, my mom leaving
Yeah.
Africa to come here and not speak the language, and so
Yeah.
many different changes.
Right.
To open a business, to be pregnant with me, to not have daycare, to not be able to afford XYZ. I think
Right.
that this is life.
And you had a partnership where you not for your first not for your son but for your daughter.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
Oh, baby, will I? Okay, like the first time that I got pregnant and gave birth with my son, I thought that it was just a hospital visit and I was back on a horse, like meetings outside.
Mm-hmm.
I got so sick.
Mm-hmm.
My body was like, how dare you? And I didn't have the education to understand that the 4th trimester is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
My body is open and it's fragile. I have a wound inside of me that's trying to heal.
Mm-hmm.
I need extra nourishment. I need time. I need rest. And I was just like, nope, I'm a superhero. I can do XYZ. So my body really told me, girl, try me.
Mm-hmm.
So the second time I was doing all my research. I'm like, how do I do this better? Because I'm not going to learn. You take one time it takes me to learn. Okay. Especially when it comes to health, it's all we have. So after that health scare, the second time I did some research, I'm like, okay, first of all, America is literally trash when it comes to postpartum, women in general, but postpartum specifically. So like, what other cultures? Like, what do they do? Like, I know in Senegal, like, baby, like, you have an army, you're getting massage, like, you know what I mean, and not like a comfortable massage. Like, they don't get in your body back into shape. They're feeding you these warm brews and grains and like just nourishing your body because you need it. You don't go outside, you're in your house. And I found out that Korean culture is the same. So I kept doing research and like looking online, and even with my husband, I'm like, wouldn't it be great if we just like ran off somewhere and we just like in our bubble? Because there's something so special about this, just having a baby and like the bubble that you're in with your partner is so special. But I'm like, you know what? There has to be something. So I was on, and you know, Instagram listens to you. I don't know if they read your mind.
But honey, they read in your mind. They know the future. They were like, yeah, I knew you were looking for this.
Yeah, so I was searching and I saw Borum Care. I'm like, what is this? And I think an influencer, I forgot which influencer. I think Miriam. I don't know why I'm blanking on her name, but she went and experienced. I'm like, hey girl, like, and Alicia Yoon from Peach and Lily. I'm like, can you tell me more about this? They're like, yeah, it's on 56th Street. You know, it's at the Thompson Hotel, and they rented out I don't know if they rent. I don't know the structure, but they have the entire floor where it's just new moms and families, and they take care of you. They feed you 3 nourishing meals a day, and then it's the other stuff. It's the pumping and your breast being so engorged and in pain, and having nurses there to kind of reassure you to get your nervous system just down because you're just so anxious. Like, oh my God, is she latching? Is she sleeping? All that stuff, and they ease some of that burden and really bring back the idea of it takes a village, because you don't have the village anymore.
Right.
Everyone's gone, separated, you know, across ponds.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. Even grandma, not here.
Yeah.
So I needed that. So I went there, and it was a beautiful partnership. My husband and I went there for 3 days. They took the baby at night. I got to sleep, got to rest. My husband went out in the city and like would have his break as well, because you need that. Because you're just so attentive at those times and so like kind of wound up. They literally massaged my breasts because they were engorged, like the whole 9, like steams for down there. Okay. So I did it all.
Cute.
Okay, I did it all, and I'm like, you know what? I wish this was available for everyone. So, right when I came out, I'm like, we have to partner with them. So I was very adamant. I think this past year, you know, the Mother's Day, we sponsored a family to go out there. I'm like, yeah, I want to pay it forward. So we did a partnership with them, and we sponsored a family for 3 nights to be able to get that for free.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I
thank
love
you.
That. So what advice would you offer to those looking to follow in your footsteps, especially when it comes to resilience?
Yeah. Ooh, especially when it comes to resilience. We're not talking about business plans or anything like that. It's the character. I think in order to have resilience, you have to know who you are. And I think I know I am. I know who I am. I know what I want. And I know what kind of future I see. I literally see for myself. So I think that when you have that anchor or that North Star, you always remind yourself that, again, this is temporary. It hurts. It's painful. It's like going to the gym, right? It's painful, but the body is going to be bodying.
Right.
And I'm going to be happy with myself.
Right.
And everyone around you sees that, you know? So I think that I always remind myself of my North Star. What do I want for my family? How do I want to show up as a wife? And especially as a wife, too, I think that this is a very stressful job. And I wouldn't say that my husband understands everything about it, but he also is a business owner, so he knows a little bit more about like the responsibility of it. But you can very easily, and you can tell me too, like when you have a stressful day, bringing that home.
Yeah.
And I think that I've been learning to check myself. I can literally see myself. I'm like, whoop, will it in, girl.
Yep.
That is not his fault. You're not going to punch on him.
Yep.
Or these kids.
You're like recalibrating what you're going to say in your mind.
And he watches me do it, and he dies laughing. We both do it too. And even when I'm with my kids, like I'm like, put that in. I'm like, you know what? Wait. He's a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
All he needs right now to behave is for me to get on his level, look at him eye to eye, and play with him.
Right.
So there's 15 minutes that's not going to be emailed.
Right.
Let me sit down and do that.
Yeah.
So I think that I have a consciousness of time that gives me the resilience to go on a little bit. And sometimes it's bigger than you. And I've accepted that I think Ami Colé is the beginning, but I think there's a lot of work that God has kind of funneled me through to do. Like the conversations that I'm having, I can see the aha moments happening with certain people that are legendary people in the industry that have been doing the same thing over and over again, and because of pattern. So for me to come in and be able to articulate why you should pattern break, I don't take that for granted. And I think that gives me the resilience that even though what I'm doing is very hard, there's a bigger thing, a family, you know, a place in this industry to be able to pay it forward in many ways.
Mic drop if you could have dropped the mic, okay? I love it. Okay, so what's next for Ami Colé? Can you tell us a little secret? Just
tell us the secrets. What is next for Ami Colé? You know what? I guess I'm so distracted because what's next is actually a lot of internal work. And no one talks about this, but excuse me, as you scale a company and a brand, it takes sometimes you have to pause and figure out like the real strategy to really win. And I'm in that mindset. So I'm not even thinking about products. I know you want to talk about products, but we're doubling down on what we do good. And that's always been skin. You know,
skin enhancing stick honey. Oh my gosh.
The stick honey. I love the stick.
My mom was obsessed with the tint. I love the tint.
So we're doubling down on like what skin actually means to us. Why? You know, I think that we're getting asked very special questions, and I respect it. I'm like, why when you walk into a Sephora, why are people buying Ami Colé? And I'm like, it's like one of those like existential questions, like, whoa, what is my purpose in life? But so that's my homework right now for the purpose of the brand. How do I want to stand the test of time and be able to also catch up with the Joneses? Like there's TikTok and there's this. You got to go viral. You got to do brand partnerships. You got to do influencer partnerships. And like, again, I'm working from one pot. So I think right now I'm just pausing to understand, like, how do we not become another statistical brand that shuts down?
Right.
How do we thrive, and how do we also stay alive for the test of time?
Yeah.
It's very hard work. So that's that. And then the product, we're just going to keep giving you good skin. That's all I could say. Good skin. Good skin are us, honey.
More to come.
More to come.
I'm so excited. Okay, so please tell us how to find you specifically with your new friends.
Absolutely. Hi, new friends. Thank you for lending the space and the ear. So you can find me on TikTok now. I'm on TikTok now.
Really? Let me go find it right now.
I think it's just Diarrha N'Diaye. Sorry, we'll put it in the notes.
We'll put it in the notes.
And then I'm on Instagram, Diarrha, Diarrhaxo, on Instagram. And you can find my brand, Ami Colé, on Instagram as well, by Ami Colé. And then on TikTok. So we're out there rocking and sharing and hopefully entertaining as well.
Thank you so much for your
time.
Thank you. For everything. Thank you for trusting me all these years. Honey. And of course, you guys know we have secret episodes. We are going to have a secret episode with Ajada. So don't forget to check out the link in our bios and also in the show notes to find out how to get that. And of course, you can find us on all platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And I will catch you guys in the next episode.
Bye. Love you.